Hello everyone, my name is Alexis and welcome to the Design Your Life 30-Day Yoga Journey, Day 5. Don't forget to have fun. Today's class is themed around the sacral chakra, which is about pleasure and fun, creativity, fluidity. The element is water, so as you move through this class, I want you to imagine you're like a river flowing through land. Make sure you have at least one block, if not two, for some of the poses that we'll be doing later on. And you can come to a comfortable seat. I recommend sitting cross-legged, but you can do pretty much all of the movements we'll be doing if kneeling as well. So find what's comfortable. If you need a block underneath your bum, do so. And we're going to begin like we've begun most of our classes so far in this 30-day series. Come to rest, close your eyes, and take several breaths in and out through the nose. And check in. How are you doing today? How are you feeling in your mind, in your body, in your heart? As usual, there are no right or wrong answers to this question. You're simply observing and arriving here in your yoga space, on your yoga mat. And all you have to do is follow my cues, find what feels good, and hopefully enjoy the class. Take a couple more deep breaths. Like I said, the sacral chakra is about fun and fluidity. It is located just below your belly button, and it symbolizes our ability to feel and to flow with what life presents us. This can be a challenging chakra for many people. It is difficult at times to let go enough that we can flow with what happens, that we can go with the flow. Often, too, we can feel like we can't be creative because we feel like we'll be judged. And it is important to remember that your creativity exists, whether or not people have opinions on it. I hope throughout this class, you can tap into those stores within you of creativity, fluidity, and maybe have a little bit of fun too. This is definitely a feel-good flow, but I hope throughout the course of it, you can tap into some of those traits I mentioned earlier. Take a couple more breaths here. Enjoy this little check-in. Go ahead and open your eyes if they were closed. And from here, take a deep breath in and lift the arms up overhead. We're going to begin with twists. So left hand comes to the right knee, twist to the right. Inhale back through to center, lift the arms overhead. Right hand comes to the left knee, twist to the left. Beautiful. Continue like that. Inhale the arms up overhead. Exhale, twist to the right. Inhale through center. Exhale, twist to the left. Beautiful. Inhale back through to center. Exhale, twist. Back through to center. Exhale, twist. Continue like this. As you twist, you're inhaling to lengthen through the spine and then exhaling to twist maybe a little deeper. We're just warming up here, so you don't need to go to your deepest twist. Come twist to the right and pause. Take a couple breaths here. Breathing deeply through the nose. This class will be a little slower than some of our other classes in this series, but enjoy that. See if you can find the enjoyment in taking our time. Inhale back through to center, and this time twist over to the left. Breathing deeply. Make sure both sits bones are grounded onto the mat. Your spine is nice and tall, and you're relaxing your shoulders away from the ears. If you're right hand doesn't reach past your left knee, that's okay. Just reach wherever you can, whatever is accessible to you today. Beautiful. Inhale the arms back up through to center. Exhale, let the right hand come down to the mat and come into a side bend. And then we're just going to switch side to side. So inhaling to come over to the left, and then exhaling to come back through to the right, and just sort of sway side to side. We're going to begin to tap into some of that fluidity that I mentioned earlier, like you're a river or a stream trickling through a riverbed. Or you can imagine yourself as a tree gently swaying in the breeze. Beautiful. Come down and land on your side bend to the right and push through that right hand so that your left hip, your left sits bone presses into the mat so you get a nice big stretch on that left side. You can look up or down, whatever is most comfortable on your neck. And take those big, deep breaths. And then inhale, lift yourself up through to center, all the way over to the left. And again, same thing. You're pushing into the mat with that left hand so that your right sits bone grounds into the mat. And what this does is this enables you to open up through the whole sides of your body. It creates a little bit of dynamic resistance so that you can reach that right arm up and over and get a nice deep stretch. Come back to center, bring the hands to your knees, and we're going to work through some cat-cows. Inhaling to open up across the chest, exhaling to round through the spine. Just move like this. And again, cat-cow can often be a fairly segmented movement, but I want you to find fluidity here. Imagine you're drawing a circle with your chest as you open and close through the chest. You don't need to go to your fullest expression of either position here. I want you more to focus on flowing fluidity, finding smoothness as you kind of even out the movement. Beautiful. Last one. And come back up to a nice straight spine. And from here, we're going to move into our Sufi grinds, which might feel more comfortable in a cross-legged position. Begin to circulate the shoulders in one direction. And you can move as slow or as fast as you want here. Keep your hips and your sits bones grounded on the mat. So it's almost as if your spine is pivoting out of a stable position, almost like you're sort of spinning a top, the handle of a top, and your shoulders are the tip of that top. And maybe switch directions as well. Do switch directions. It also might help to switch the cross of your feet when you switch directions. That might make it feel a little bit better on your hips. I always find that's a good support for my knees as well. And of course, continue breathing. I like to breathe in as I go forward and breathe out as I circle around behind me. But find whatever works for you, whatever rhythm feels good. Lovely. Come back to center. Take a deep breath in. Let it out as a sigh. And then from here, we're going to come to tabletop pose. Like I've said before, set yourself up for success. So hips over knees, shoulders over wrists. And we're going to move through a couple more cat-cows here. Make sure your core is nice and engaged. It's scooping back up to the spine. And then try to isolate your movement of cat-cow in your upper body as you open up across the shoulders and then round through the back. And just move like that several times, several cat-cows here. Again, finding that same fluidity, smoothing out that motion between cat and between cow. Almost like you're taking a butter knife and just smoothing out that transition. Beautiful. Come back to center. And from here, you're going to sit your hips back into child's pose. Inhale, come forward into cow pose, open up across the chest. Exhale, sit back into child's. And that's the movement. Inhaling forward into cow, broaden across the chest. Exhale, sit the hips back onto the feet. And you're just going to continue like this, and you're going to focus that same attention on smoothing out this movement. I like to imagine that my hips are actually making a big circle here as I do this motion. It really helps to invite in that fluidity I'm looking for in this, but also create a little bit of comfort in my hips as well. Now our next pose is moving from child's pose to hanging cobras. You might want blocks for this. I like to have them underneath my hands. And you're going to start in a wide-legged child's pose. So your hips are nice and wide. Make sure your hands are on the blocks. And on your inhale, you're going to send your hips forward, bring the weight onto the hands, and lift the feet. So we're stretching through the whole front of the body here. And then as you exhale, you'll sit back into child's. Inhale forward, hanging cobra. Keep the shoulders relaxed away from the head. You're pushing through the hands. And then exhale back to child's. And again, move through that transition a couple times. Inhaling forward to hanging cobra, stretching the whole front of the body, and then exhaling back into your wide-legged child's pose. Just a couple more here. Breathe as deeply as you can. The deeper your breath, the more fluidity you can find. Last one right here. Exhale back into child's pose. Beautiful. From here, we're going to make our way into downward facing dog. And if you had blocks, you might want to just pop them towards the front of your mat. We are going to use them later, but I will provide an option if you don't have them, of course. Curl your back toes under and send your hips all the way up to the ceiling to downward facing dog. I really want you to press through the palm of the thumb and the forefinger, the first finger here, and maybe bend one knee and then the other, pushing down through the heels. So you're pushing through the hands, you're pushing through the backs of the legs, through the feet, and really relaxing the sternum towards the mat. Line the ears up with the biceps. Beautiful. And then bring that right foot forward in between the hands and lower the left knee to the mat, coming into our low lunge. You have a couple options here. You can keep your hand on your thigh, hands on the hips, or you can inhale the arms up overhead like I am. It's up to you. The most important thing in your low lunge is to keep your knee directly over your ankle. Everything else is okay. Take several deep breaths here. And with that right knee directly over your ankle, I want you to see how much you can relax your hips down. Lunges are great because they stretch out our hip flexors. You might remember from yesterday, we did a knee to the chest yin pose that also stretched our hip flexors. Low lunges do the same thing. Now grab your blocks, bring them up on the highest setting underneath your shoulders. And from here, send the hips back towards the knee, towards the left knee for half split. And then inhale forward into low lunge again. You might need to wiggle your front foot forward a little bit. Exhale, press the hips back, half split. Inhale forward, low lunge. Exhale back, half split. Just a couple more transitions like this. Once again, of course, finding that fluidity, that freedom of movement between these two postures. Beautiful. Inhale, let the hips sink forward. And then exhale, this time in your half split, relax into a forward fold here. Now, if your right leg isn't straight, that's totally fine and totally normal. The most important thing is that your hips are lined up over that left knee and your front right foot is flexed. Try to keep your hips square as much as you can and try and keep length in your spine. Over time, you will get more flexible, but straightening the leg isn't necessary to get the full benefits of this stretch. Lovely. Inhale forward into your low lunge. Bring your right hand onto either the block or your hip, and we're going to come into a little side bend here. So you're going to reach the left arm up overhead and reach it over to the right. If you don't have blocks, you can just bring your right hand to your hip. If you do, it's a great extra support and can help you go a little deeper into the side bend, actually. Props are not just for beginners, they are for every yoga practitioner at every point in your practice. Come back to center. And from here, you're going to curl the back toes underneath. You can set your blocks aside, and we're going to lift up into our high lunge. And if you need to use the blocks as a stabilizer to get you up there, do so. You can bring your hands straight up overhead, or you can bring your hands to heart center or on your hips, whatever matters, or whatever works for you. You're going to straighten both knees and then bend the knees into a lunge, almost like you're trying to get that back knee to touch the mat. If you need to use something for balance here, do so. But you're going to inhale to straighten both legs, exhale to bend both knees. And it might mean you need a narrower lunge stance as well. Continue like this, inhaling to straighten both legs, exhaling to bend both knees, dipping our hips down towards the mat. Beautiful. Almost there. Last one, and hold it. Hold it down. Try and lower that back knee towards the mat just a little more. And then plant the hands on the mat and step back into downward facing dog. And if you would like to take a flowing down to the mat through cobra or doing chaturanga through up dog, you are welcome to. However you get there, arrive in your downward dog and take a couple breaths. And when you're ready, bring the left foot up between the palms, and we're going to repeat the same sequence on the other side, starting with our low lunge. So make sure that left knee is directly over the left ankle, and you can bring your hands wherever is comfortable. Let your hips sink forward just a little bit. Lift up through the chest, relax the shoulders away from the ears. Try and keep the core engaged. So even though we're stretching through the hips, you still want to keep your belly button scooping back to your spine. It's a way of creating some stability that allows you to go a little bit deeper into a stretch. Lovely. Bring the hands to blocks or the mat if you don't have blocks. Maybe walk the front left foot forward a little bit into your low lunge, and then exhale back into half split. Inhale forward, low lunge. Exhale back, half split. And again, continue with that same movement. I do really enjoy walking my front foot forward a little bit so I can go into a deeper low lunge stretch when I move through these transitions, but it's up to you. Find what feels good in your body as you go through these little movements. Last time, inhale forward, low lunge, and exhale, settle into your half split. And remember, the important thing is that your hips are over that right knee. Your hips are square, so you're trying to almost like suck that left hip joint back into its place, and keep that left foot flexed. And your hands can stay on the blocks, they can come to the floor, whatever works. Move within your own range of motion here. And take some deep breaths. Inhale back forward into your low lunge. You can set your blocks aside, just the right block. The left block, bring your hand to it and lift the right arm up and over, coming into a side bend to the left. If you don't have a block, you can just bring your left hand to your left hip, pushing the hips out to the right. Breathe deeply here. Keep your core engaged, of course, at all times. Come back to center, and you can set both blocks up at the front of your mat. Curl the back toes under and lift yourself up into a slightly shorter stanced high lunge. Because remember, we're going to straighten both legs and do those dips. So bring your hands wherever is comfortable and straighten both legs. Deep breath in. Exhale, bend both knees. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. You're trying to get that back right knee almost to touch the mat. So again, that might be why you need a narrower stance, so you can actually bend that right knee as you need. This is a good strengthening exercise for your legs. More strength oriented than our usual yoga lunge. Just a couple more here. Keep going. You're doing great. These can be really challenging. And hold down at the bottom of this last one. Beautiful. Plant the hands and make your way back into downward facing dog however you would like. And when you get there, take deep breaths. Really push through the hands. Drop the sternum towards the mat. Enjoy the stretch in the legs and the arms. Come up onto your tippy toes and walk your feet to the front of the mat to come into forward fold. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold, and then push through the heels of the feet to roll yourself all the way up to Tadasana. Beautiful. Come to the center of your mat, the long ways. We're going to come into goddess pose next. So you can just step out to the sides. You can heel toe your feet out to the side. And then from there, you're going to flare out the feet to the sides. So we can come into goddess pose. Inhale the arms up overhead and exhale, bend the knees, bend the arms into goddess. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend into goddess. And again, same thing. Keep going, straightening and sinking into goddess. As you move through this squat, try and find that same fluidity that we found earlier in our cat-cow, our child's pose to hanging cobra, our low lunge to half split motions. How much of that fluidity can you invite in? Maybe how much can you let that fluidity guide your fun in this very challenging pose? You're doing great. Almost there. Just a couple more. Whew. Very nice. And then sit down into your goddess pose and just give me little pulses up and down. Press through the feet, keep the knees nice and wide. Arms nice and open. You're broadening across the chest, pushing the knees out. Almost there. Almost there. You're doing great. And hold. Whew. Straighten through the legs, straighten the arms. You did amazing. Turn the feet back so the toes are facing forward, parallel to the short edges of the mat. Inhale up nice and tall and exhale, relax into your forward fold. That should feel great right now after those goddess squats. You can put your hands wherever is comfortable, whether that's on your behind your knees, on your shins. I like to walk mine towards the back of the mat because that feels nice. The goal is to feel good here. You maybe bend into one knee and then the other, or sway the torso side to side. Up to you. And begin to sway the torso side to side if you weren't already. Press through the heels, bend the knees, and sway yourself all the way up to standing. Very nice. From here, we're going to move into Warrior 2. So turn the right toes out so they're facing the short edge of the mat. And again, like I talked about earlier in this yoga journey, double check your heel to arch alignment. So that right heel should line up directly with the center of the arch of your left foot. Make sure your shoulders are stacked over your hips and extend the arms straight out from the shoulders. And breathe. Here, press the feet into the mat. Make sure you're opening up that right knee so it's tractioning over your toes. You're scooping the belly button back to the spine, and you're relaxed through the shoulders. And then inhale, straighten the leg, lift the arms overhead. Exhale, back into warrior two, moving through our warrior two pumps. Inhale, straighten the leg, lift the arms. Exhale, back into warrior two. And again, you know the drill by now. Find fluidity here. If you want to add a little bit of fun and creativity, you can sort of wave the arms as you go through this. Very nice. And then coming into side angle pose, lowering that right elbow down to the right thigh, and then reaching the left arm up and overhead. Breathing deeply here. Try to get as much length as you can from the left ankle all the way up the left side of your body to the left wrist. And come back up to warrior two, reverse your warrior. Keeping your legs nice and stable and sturdy. Fluidity comes from a place of stability. Beautiful. Come back to warrior two, straighten that right leg, pivot the toes, they're facing towards the long edge of your mat. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So turn the left toes out. Make sure you've got that heel to arch alignment, left heel to right foot arch. Bend into that left knee. And same. Pressing through the feet. That left knee is tractioning over the left toes. Your belly button is scooping back to the spine to engage your core. Your shoulders are stacked over your hips and relaxed, and your arms are reaching out from your shoulders. And breathe here. Lovely. And moving into our warrior two pumps, straightening the knee and lifting the arms, and then exhaling back into warrior two. And again, find a little fluidity, find a little flow here. I'm being pretty strong in my movements here, but if you want to flow the arms, if you want to make circles with the arms as you move through these pumps, do so. And then moving into our side angle pose, you can bring the left elbow to the left thigh or wrap the left hand around the left calf and reach the right arm up overhead. Once again, trying to get a nice big opening from that right ankle all the way up the right side of the body, up the hip, up the ribs, up the arm, all the way to the right wrist. You're doing great. Beautiful. Come back to warrior two, reverse your warrior. It doesn't matter how deep you go here, just getting a nice stretch on the opposite side of the torso now. And come back to warrior two. Straighten that left leg and pivot the toes so both are facing forward. And then step to the top of your mat, coming into Tadasana. And from here, make your way to downward facing dog. Once again, however you want to. You can move through a chaturanga and up dog. You can lower all the way to the belly on the mat and then move through a cobra or a sphinx pose, or you can just step back into downward facing dog. Whatever you want to do. And then step that right foot forward to come back into your low lunge. Make sure that right knee is over the right ankle and lift the arms up overhead. Take a couple breaths here. Maybe check in. Does this low lunge feel any different than the first low lunge that you did at the beginning of class? And then exhale the hands down inside of that right foot and heel toe the right foot out towards the edge of the mat. So your toes are going to be off the mat, heel will be on the mat. We're coming into lizard. And you can lift the back knee off the mat for a more powerful activated lizard, or you can keep the left knee down on the mat for a deeper, more flexy sort of lizard pose. Yogi's choice, pick which one feels best in your body today. Beautiful. If you had that back knee lowered, go ahead and lift it up. Step the right foot back to meet the left into your plank pose. We'll be here only for a couple of breaths, so try and hold out if you can. If you need to lower the knees at any time, you can, of course. Breathe nice and deep. Push through the hands. Almost there. Beautiful. Lower the knees if you haven't already. Lower your torso all the way down to the mat. And from here, we're going to come into one of my favorite poses, half frog. So the upper body is going to be in Sphinx with your forearms on the mat. And then your right knee is going to come directly so it's in line with your hip. And your right ankle is going to help your leg form a 90-degree angle. You want to get this as close to a perfect 90-degree angle as you possibly can. And that's it. You can keep your chest lifted up in Sphinx, or you can lower the chest down to the mat. If you want a blanket or something underneath your right knee to give it a little bit of a cushion, especially if you're doing yoga on hardwood like I am, then do so. This is a wonderful hip opener, which, like I mentioned before, the sacral chakra is located beneath our belly button in our pelvis. Press yourself back up into your plank pose. Give it one more little hold. Breathe nice and deep. Send the tailbone towards the feet. Make sure your butt isn't sticking up too high. You're almost there. Breathe deeply. And we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. So step forward for a quick little forward fold. Inhale, lift up halfway. Forward fold should probably feel really nice right now. Breathe deeply in your forward fold. And then this time, step the right foot back so that your left leg is forward, coming into your low lunge on the left side. And we'll repeat the same thing here. Take a couple breaths in your low lunge and evaluate, how does this feel compared to the first part of class? And then bring the hands to the inside of the left knee. Heel toe the left foot out to the edge of your mat. So the toes are off the mat and heel is on the mat. Coming into lizard pose. And I should have said on the other side, but if lizard is tricky, you're always welcome to bring blocks under your hands. And you always have the option, if you are flexible enough, to lower yourself onto your elbows on blocks or onto the mat. Right knee is lifted or down on the mat, up to you. And if it was on the ground, go ahead and lift it up, because from here we're going to step the left foot back to meet the right and hold our plank pose. Don't worry, we've only got 2 more plank poses, and then after this, you're all done. You're almost there. You're doing great. Continue to breathe. Press through the feet. Press through the hands. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. You're almost there. Beautiful. Lower the knees. Lower the torso all the way down to the mat. And we're going to come into half frog on the other side. So same principles apply. Left knee is going to come straight out from the left hip. Left ankle is going to be straight down from the left knee. So you're creating a nice 90-degree angle, a nice little square with your left leg. And again, your torso can remain lifted up, or you can lower it down. If you have a bolster here, or a blanket or a pillow, that's a really lovely thing to put under your chest as an extra support to allow you to relax further into the posture. Beautiful. Lift yourself back up into your plank pose, either on your knees or with the knees lifted. You are one long line of energy from the top of your head, spiraling all the way down your spine to your feet. Everything is active. Keep the core engaged. Breathe. Send the tailbone to the feet. Beautiful. Lower the knees to the mat. Lower the torso all the way to the mat and give the hips just a little wiggle side to side. Take a little rest here before we move on. Now bring the hands, so they're right underneath the armpits, right to the outside of the pectorals. Press the tops of the feet into the mat so the kneecaps lift. Press the hips into the mat and firm up the core, and then press into the hands to lift the chest. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, press through the hands, lift up into cobra pose. Exhale, lower down. Keep your lower body firm and steady, and find that fluidity as you lift up into your cobra and lower down. It does not matter how high you lift up into your cobra. The fluidity is the most important part. Continue moving just like this, lifting up And maybe on this one, hold your cobra pose, really reach through the toes. And then from here, we're going to lower into Sphinx. Now your lower body is still doing the same thing. You're pressing through the tops of the feet. You're pushing the hip points into the mat, and you're keeping your core engaged. And you can be in Sphinx or in High Cobra, whichever works for you. Wherever you were, lower yourself down back to the mat, and then press back into Child's Pose. It can be a wide-legged Child's Pose, narrow knees together Child's Pose, whatever you like. We're slowing down our flow here a little bit more, and we're going to begin to come into some deep stretches in the hips. So if you need blocks or a blanket to give you a little lift as we move through these poses, go ahead and grab one. Otherwise, stay in your Child's Pose for a couple more breaths. Lift yourself up to a seated position, and from here, we're going to come into half hero pose on both sides. We've done this before in previous days. We're going to start with we're going to keep the left leg straight, and we're going to bend the right knee so that the right foot comes beside us, right outside of the right hip. Make sure both knees are facing forward, and if this is uncomfortable, it might be helpful to sit up on a block. If you have the mobility and the desire to, you are welcome to fold forward. Make sure that that left leg stays very active. Left foot, left toes trying to lift up to the ceiling. And you might not go very far here, and that's totally normal. Lift yourself back up if you were in a forward fold, and extend the right leg forward. And we're just going to switch sides. So right leg stays extended and active out in front of you. Left knee bends and the left foot tucks right by your left hip. Make sure both knees are straight forward out of your hips. And if you would like to, this is totally optional, you can fold forward. Take one more breath here and lift yourself up to a seated position. Now from here, we're going to come into full hero, where you'll lift your hips up, bend both knees so that your feet are next to your hips, and then sit your hips down in between your feet. If this is inaccessible, you have a couple options. You can sit up on a block, Or you can come to your back and hug your knees into your chest. It's effectively the same thing. If you are with me in hero pose, and you are not sitting up on a block, you are welcome to lean back onto your elbows. If you are super flexible, you can lay all the way down onto your back, but that is not normal. So find what's comfortable here so you get a nice stretch in the tops of your legs. Again, find what feels good. If you feel any pain in your knees at any point, come out of the pose. You can either lie down on your back, hug your knees into your chest, or you can just sit in a comfortable cross-legged position. Beautiful. Wherever you were, press yourself out of hero pose. Remove any poses. Maybe wiggle the hips side to side. Give the knees a shimmy. And from here, come to a comfortable seat. We're going to come into half butterfly. So bring the left foot towards the groin and extend the right leg out to the side, just as far as is comfortable. You don't want to push it too hard here. We're going to do two different kinds of forward folds. So first, pivot your shoulders so they're facing that extended right leg and fold over the right leg. And again, it doesn't matter how wide your right leg is out to the side. It doesn't matter. Whatever is comfortable, wherever your leg naturally goes is where you want it. And then folding forward over that leg. Relaxing through the shoulders, of course, making sure you're bending out of the hips. Beautiful. And then lift back up, and we're just going to pivot so the shoulders are facing forward. So you're going to get a little bit more of an inner thigh stretch here. If there's not a lot of differentiation between folding over the leg and folding forward, that's totally fine. You're still getting all of the benefits of the pose, no matter where your leg is. Come back up, and we're going to, from here, come into deer pose. So this left leg, you're going to make sure the shin is lined up with the long edge of your mat, and you're going to tuck that right knee into the left foot, and then bring your hand to your hip, and you're just going to push that right hip forward and back, forward and back. This is called hip flossing, and it's amazing for mobility and flexibility. Just a couple more, just like that. Move as slowly or as quickly as you like, but don't speed run through this. Let it feel good. Beautiful. One more time. And then from here, we're set up for deer pose. So you will pivot towards the left thigh, and maybe you're just here in your twist, or maybe you come down onto your forearms, folding over that left thigh, like I am. If you want blocks under your forearms to help prop yourself up, do so. And come back up. And we're going to do all of those poses on the other side. So it might help to windshield wiper the legs side to side, feel into your hips, give them a little bit of love. And then from here, like I said, same. So hug the right foot into the groin this time and extend the left leg out long. Again, it doesn't matter how far out your left leg is, but you're going to pivot your shoulders in the direction of that left leg and fold over top of the left leg. And again, you might not go very far. I don't go very far, and that's fine. Moving within our range of motion is very important and prevents injury. Lift yourself back up, and this time pivot the shoulders so they're in line with the hips and fold directly forward. And lift yourself back up. And from here, that right shin is going to scoot forward so it lines up with the front of your mat. And the left knee is going to hug into that right foot. Then bring your hand to your left hip. And we're going to do that little forward and back motion with the left hip to floss out the hip joint. Continue. Just a couple more little flosses. And last one. And then from here, sit up nice and tall, pivot yourself to the right, and fold forward over that right thigh. And if you can't fold, that's okay. If you're just pivoting in kind of a gentle twist, that works great as well. And lift yourself back up. Bring both legs in front of you for another windshield wipe side to side to ease out the hips a little bit. And from here, we're slowly going to make our way down to Shavasana. You have two options for Shavasana today. You can come into Supta Baddha Konasana, like we did yesterday, soles of feet together, knees apart, maybe with blocks under the knees. Or you can come into just a regular old good Shavasana with the legs extended out long, feet as wide as the mat. Or if all of this work on your hips is giving your low back a little bit of tension, you can always bend the knees, have the feet, again, as wide as the mat so that the knees knock in together. Those are your three options. Pick your path, find what's going to feel good, and relax into your Shavasana. begin to make gentle movements with the fingers and the toes. And very slowly and gently, make your way up to a seated position, making any movements that you need or want. I like to do a full body stretch and then hug my knees into my chest, but pick your path and then join me in a seated position so we can finish our class. When you arrive, take a couple deep breaths in and out through the nose, and maybe check in with yourself just once more. How do you feel? Do you feel different? No matter the answer to that question, know you can always come back to this class to tap into creativity or a little bit of go with the flow energy. Take a deep breath in, lift the hands down, around, and up overhead, and exhale, pull the hands to heart center. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That's how I know that this is the type of class that you want to see. Be sure to subscribe because there is many more days of this 30-day yoga journey coming your way. And until tomorrow, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.